Yeah, how's it going? Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for asking, and I hope that everything is good at your end.
Yes, I'm just gonna move some things. I just want to make sure the background looks not messy. Let me see.
By the way, I like your plants. It's beautiful, three of them.
Thank you. My this one has gotten so big. I actually got it from one leaf and one node. Somebody gave it to
Wow,
me. Yeah. So it's grown quite a bit. Yep.
intriguing. My mom is really into plants. Like we have plants all around our house. Like in the
Hmm.
of our house, like in my balcony, there are lots of plants. So, yeah, she is really into this.
Are you guys, I know this might seem like a silly question, but you're in a tropical climate there. And so
Yeah.
where is it? Okay.
Yeah, yes, your question is right, but like my mom has, kept them like away from sunlight, like the sunlight is there, but it's not in that amount that
Yeah.
like the plants get burned or something. So she looks,
Yeah. Indirect. That's
yeah,
what they call it.
yes, yeah. And I want to tell my viewers that Esther, she's a human being, equivalent of a Swiss Army knife. Uh,
Yeah.
She runs a non-profit development manager, the speaker on joy, domestic violence, neurodivergence, trauma-informed employment advocate, and chameleon copywriter. Okay.
So the Swiss Army knife is a reference to um, the fact that I've worked to build my skill set. Um, like every single time I had an opportunity to do any kind of education or skill development, I jumped right on it.
Mhm.
So what that's turned into is if you put me into any situation, I can pretty much function pretty well, pretty fast.
Intriguing.
Um, yeah, and that is something that I'm known for and I absolutely love about myself. Um, but it's the only sort of metaphor that everybody seems to understand.
Gotcha. And like
Mhm.
Esther, when it comes to like this kind of mindset, I feel like you have a thick skin. How can human beings develop a thick skin like you?
Oh, um, so my thick skin was not always there. I had to go through a lot of hardship to get to that. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But I would say that exposing yourself to a wide array of experiences, even positions that maybe you're not super comfortable in, but they could be kind of like higher pressure, that sort of helps to get you a little more acclimated to like higher stress environments. Mhm.
Gotcha. Wow. And you shared that you are a survivor of a domestic violence and mental health challenges. So how
Mhm.
those experience share your mission today?
Yes, they do. I have been struggling for probably my whole life with not really knowing who exactly I was. Found out halfway through my life, which hopefully it's halfway through my life, it was just a few years ago, that I'm actually part of the neurodivergent community. I was diagnosed with ADHD and likely some form of autism, but I haven't sorted out that just yet. I can actually be really socially awkward in situations, parties and social situations, but as far as like professional, I thrive because I'm able to kind of move between different situations. I love I love that I've been able to self-manage a lot of my ADHD and the elements that have come along with that, um, which I can tell you more about. But the domestic violence that I have survived through, I was actually in two or three relationships that were controlling, abusive, um, earlier in my life. The last type of domestic violence that um, uh, I actually went through was a form of intimate partner violence. I don't want to get too far into that, but the specific type of intimate partner violence that I survived through is called coercive control. I encourage any of your readers who want to learn more about that to look up the researcher Emma Katz, who is in the UK, EMMAKATZ. She wrote an excellent article on coercive control and the impact on relationships, family relationships. So I do think that coercive control is something that really needs to have more information, more studies done about it. It is extremely impactful. It led to me having severe issues with depression and anxiety, and a lot of chronic mental health issues, a lot of chronic physical health issues related to that. And I only really got an idea of that like a decade or two into it. So it's it was something that I discovered that was like a missing piece for me. Um, and the way that I discovered it was a little bit alarming. I was actually working as a marketer for healthcare here in Delaware, in the US, and I wound up with um, being on a seminar that was about emotional and psychological abuse. I was just listening in while I was doing my data entry, and out of the blue, I started hearing the presenter talking about my life. And I realized at that point that this was something that I had dealt with and didn't know the name of. So of course I'm on it for work. So I slammed my laptop screen and burst into tears. And I called the presenter later because she did provide her phone number. And I said, I think this is what I'm dealing with because I haven't been able to like heal from it. But once I found that out, I was able to get enrolled in domestic violence programs here in Delaware. And that's when my healing began.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
And you've been open about living with ADHD and autism spectrum disorder. So, how has
Mhm.
neurodiversity shaped your perspective as a leader and advocate?
It makes me more considerate of the needs of the people that I'm working with, the emotional needs. I think that it has made me more emotionally mature. There are times when I look at myself now and I say, if I was in this situation 10 years ago, I'm not sure that I would have reacted the same way. So it has helped me to develop an emotional maturity that I bring to my work every single day. That's not to say I've become boring or anything. I have a sense of humor, but I really care about the people that I work with. There's a lot of times when we don't realize, like as leaders, that somebody could be dealing with something because it's an invisible issue. It's not physically something that shows on the outside. And somebody could be struggling like I did to keep it together and look totally normal as I did at the same time. And so it's made me more sensitive to the way that I speak, to the language that I use, how I break like difficult news to people, how I ask for things to be done, how I advise on certain tasks. It just has given me a little bit more sensitivity. And actually, in the job that I currently work, we are really big on inclusion. We are really big on helping people to thrive in multiple different experiences so that they can like really fully explore their skill sets. And I would say that if I had that opportunity when I was younger, I think my career would have been a little bit of a different path. And so I try to mentor people whenever I possibly can. Um, I've also brought some of my experience as an ADHD slash autism, you know, diagnosis, if that's the right word, to the group dynamics. So like my team members, There's actually one person who I noticed was really struggling, and I asked for permission to coach him because I felt like he had incredible potential. And within a couple of months, he started to really grow. But ADHD is difficult. You know, you are constantly fighting with yourself to stay engaged in things, to organize your own work, to organize the inside of your brain. You have to constantly, like, for me, I'm not sure about everybody else, but I have to use like mnemonic devices, which are, let's say, I need to remember that I took my pill in the morning, but it's a repetitive task. So if I take it on Monday and I take it on Tuesday, and then I get up on Wednesday and I take it, I may forget that I've taken it almost immediately. So when I take my pill in the morning, I actually say a different phrase every morning. So it could be something silly like ham and cheese sandwich. Take my pill, ham and cheese sandwich. Then the next day, I would use a different mnemonic in order to remember that it was that day that I took the pill. So on Thursday, I would take the pill, um, floodlights, something that was completely unrelated. And it helps me remember that that was the thing I said, that was the day that I took it, and then I can go on with my day, not wondering if I actually took my pill. So I've learned how to incorporate things like that. Habit stacking is another thing that's been really helpful. But in the 3 years or so since I was diagnosed with ADHD, with my nurse practitioner and I tried many different medications. None of them worked. They had too many side effects to really be effective, which is not unusual for people, especially women, to struggle with.
Master, like, if you could give a piece of advice to your younger self, what sort of piece of advice would you like to give to your 20-year-old younger self?
Stop confusing attention with love.
Yeah. Okay,
That's about the best I can say.
right.
Mhm.
And as you talked about phrase that you try to memorize in that way, so I want to know, like, do you have any affirmations that that you often like repeat for the sake of mental health and
Yeah,
self, I guess.
yeah. Actually, I have it on my monitor. I'm not sure that you
Wow.
could read it, but I'll read it to you.
Yes.
Everything that happens in my life, whether it seems to be positive or negative, is leading me to my highest good. All is well. I am safe.
Wow. Yeah.
Mhm.
This
There's another one that, what's that?
I guess this kind of things helps, in this world full of negativity. Affirmations, I feel
Mhm.
like it has a lot of potential and it can be really helpful, like if you truly believe in it.
Yeah. The other one that always comes to mind for me when I'm facing something that I'm not really sure how it's going to work is uh the only way out is through.
Wow.
And um sometimes that gives me just enough courage to take the next step.
Hmm.
Say, I'm closer to the end now than I was yesterday. So just keep on moving, and maybe it'll be
Wow.
maybe it'll be
Yeah.
sorted out by tomorrow.
Hmm. Definitely. Even like
Yeah.
I have something similar to that, like in my WhatsApp status as well, you'll see that face the things that you don't want to face. So I guess it's kind
Oh, that's a good
of,
one. Yep. That's a really good lesson for life because um, fear can really hold you
yeah.
back. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Esther, you also work as a trauma-informed teaching artist. So how do you
Mhm.
see like creativity contributing to healing and recovery?
Well, let me tell you actually how that happened. It was really unusual. The Delaware Division of Arts here in my home state created a program called Creative Veterans. And you can actually look it up. The way that it's actually written It's CreativeVeterans. So like creative and veterans is sort of melded together. Um, so they started this program. They wanted to try to engage with military and veteran um, folks who maybe weren't really active in their community, but had an interest in art. And so, as part of that program, they recruited, I think it was about 10 different instructors to be able to take what was called the trauma informed uh, practitioner teaching artist. I always get it mixed up. It's TIPTA. Anyway, so it was like a 4-week course. It was incredibly good to take this with other artists because a lot of the folks, even though I had been working in um, in areas that involve trauma in specific, ways, so like mental health, substance use, all of those different things, many of those folks had not had that experience. So we all kind of came at it with our different perspectives. They took us through this training. It was all about setting expectations for each class, building a list of like community guidelines. So, for example, that we will make sure that we are honoring people's names, given names versus what name they would really like to be called. That we would, create an environment where people could talk about whatever came to mind. It is not art therapy. It's really not anything near art therapy. It's essentially like teaching an art class, but just having an extra layer of understanding that art can bring up certain things for people while they're creating. And it also was a way to build community because up to this point, there really wasn't something that engaged artists, veteran artists here in Delaware. So anyway, we all went through that training, and each of us had a cohort in 2025. And so my cohort was started at the end of January and went through April. I still can't believe that it's the same year because it seems like it was a long time ago. But I myself teach two different kinds of art. I teach watercolors, which a lot of people find like frustrating. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to learn it because it was so challenging. But the opposite end of the spectrum essentially is the other thing that I teach, which is jelly plate printing. It is, if you ever look it up, it's a lot of fun. It requires like no experience to be able to do it. And there are all kinds of things that come out of it that you don't expect. So it's an exercise in exploration. You can use a lot of different like textures and techniques, but it also is, for me, an exercise in um, letting go of control because you cannot predict what will actually happen on your plate and what you'll pull off on your paper. And a lot of times it's a surprise, like, yay! But sometimes it's a surprise, like, ugh. So you just have to be willing to accept whatever comes up. I just felt like for this particular class, it really worked because there were some people who had dabbled in art and had been told like they have no talent or that they should just give it up. I personally, I think that that's a travesty because it squashes individual, creativity, and it squashes a lot of times the motivation to even begin something. A lot of people have a lot of hesitancy about getting into art. So this is kind of like the perfect medium to be able to start something without a lot of pressure, putting a lot of pressure on yourself. And you can do a lot with it. You can print on paper, you can print on like I've done one on like a coffee mug, that kind of thing. Um, so once that got started, what I did was in every class, I brought like a music player. I put on like soft, sort of meditative music. I started every class with a breathing exercise to get everybody out of like the crazy Friday mayhem morning into the relaxing artist afternoon. And the classes were 2 hours. They were done in like a blink. And um, we got a lot of really good feedback on the program. I was actually surprised because I thought that that there would be like no registrations for this because veterans are sometimes really tough to engage with. But if you ever tell them like other veterans will be there, you should, join us for them. A lot of times that's the motivation that they need. And so we did have good participation. My class was kind of at the front end of it, so it didn't get a whole lot of like marketing and publicity. But I still got a really good group of people and we all connected. And now every 2 months we get together and meet and just do whatever art projects that we're working on. It just was a really cool program. At the end of the cohort that we had, they created like an event, like a closing ceremony type thing. They filmed the entire set of classes. So each class had like a specific video about their particular type of art. And there were a whole ton of different things. So it could be like sculpture, it was poetry, storytelling, things like this, but all about personal expression. And I was really impressed with the way that the program was put together. Um, but I think there's a lot of people that will say like, oh, you're doing art therapy. It's not. It's basically teaching art like you would to anybody else, but just having that extra layer of knowledge that this could trigger somebody into talking about something. And it did indeed happen in my class, where somebody brought up that they were having issues with one particular thing and needed help. So it's actually gotten a lot of the program Creative Veterans has gotten a lot of accolades from, the the state and also from nationally in the US. It was an excellent opportunity for me to make a mark on a population I really cared about.
Wow. 2 hours,
Mhm.
right? And what was the entire duration of the course? As to
So the classes were 8 weeks from beginning to end. But and then it had one more session, which was like the culminating event. So that was like where we had a gallery showing, a little bit of like, hors d'oeuvres and drinks, and everybody sat around and kind of talked. And then we had like the director of the museum. They actually had these hosted these at different museums throughout the state, which was really cool because um, as an artist, I want to be where like the masters are, I
Mm,
want to be doing work in those areas. Yeah.
intriguing. And speaking of
Mhm.
masters, who do you think, like, who do you look up to when it comes to masters?
There's one guy that I think is just so cool. His name is Ad Reinhardt.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the story of how I discovered him because I thought it was very interesting. So um, I had a very traumatic situation happen with my children in 2021. And I did not know at that point that I had been dealing with intimate partner violence. Um, so I began to like, I had a really hard time with depression at that point. And my husband, my future husband, took me to Washington, D.C. to see the art museums there. And I was coming around the corner from seeing a whole bunch of like impressionists and all of those different artists. And I've been dabbling in abstract art for quite some time. I came around the corner from like seeing all of those sort of more traditional folks. And there on the wall were two of the most intriguing paintings I've ever seen. They're very tall. They were like 5 feet tall. They were untitled. This guy, Ad Reinhardt, actually created like like these abstract art that made your eye kind of bounce around. And I stood there looking at them for like a really long time. And I realized that that was the kind of abstract art that I wanted to create. I wanted to have a lot of contrast. I wanted your eye to move everywhere all over it. And I've also done a lot of graphic design, so I know how to like lay things out so that people kind of get the most out of the document. So it appealed to me on a couple of different levels. But Ad Reinhardt, AdReinhardt, is the artist that I probably look at the most for inspiration.
All right. And before we call it today, Esther, what kind of things are there that you like to do in your downtime?
I don't have a lot of downtime right now. I can tell you that I really love to go out and talk about my experience with intimate partner violence. It's not fun to do it, but I've started to do it more sort of locally. I'm part of a program, an advocacy program for domestic violence victims. And one of the things that we're asked to do is tell our story in specific environments that will help to create systems change. And here in Delaware, there are some things that really need to be improved upon. We had a lot of people moved into the state, and the infrastructure kind of took a hit. There's a lot of volume and not a lot of people that specialize in certain areas. And so speaking out as a survivor of intimate partner violence and coercive control is something that I'm working on and that I'm really enjoying for the most part, because it is a lot of emotional work. Um, so I'm trying to do more of that in 2025. I've had 3 or 4 speaking engagements. They've gone really well. The whole challenge of it is to um, come at it with the idea that you're going to have an honest conversation, even if that means having a hard conversation with people. I'm also learning how to like connect with my audience, which I think is didn't realize that it could be a skill that I could develop. So I'm working on that. And like every time I speak, somebody comes up to me and says, this really hit close to home, or I didn't know anything about this, and now this kind of explains some things. The last session was actually last week I got to speak. I was invited to join a committee that was working on family court reform here in Delaware. And so I'm an advocate in my day job, and I raise money for mental health programs. But my true passion really is giving back in some way, shape, or form to the population of people who have suffered from intimate partner violence, whether that's through education, through sharing my own story, or delivering research and information, because there's not a whole lot of good research being done in this area right now. Coercive control is kind of low on the totem pole for people who are really looking at like the importance of like child safety, child mental health, all of those different things. They don't realize that there's sort of uh, there's this underground sort of complex tunnels of different dynamics. It's very difficult to explain. And many people who go through this don't, like me, don't even have a name for it. They don't understand what exactly is happening. They just know that they feel attacked and they can't figure out why. Um, so I've been working on that on the side. That's something that I want to do. Like I'd love to be able to speak to larger groups at conferences and for other domestic violence programs outside of Delaware, because I think that my story is one that needs to be told. Being a person who is neurodivergent and having that kind of abuse in my history, it gives me a very unique perspective on intimate partner violence. And so I've just started a new program with the University of Delaware as well that has to do with leadership around education for neurodevelopment disabilities. And one of the things I want to work on as part of like my culminating project is trying to figure out what is sort of the risk, the higher risk for people who are neurodivergent to be exposed to intimate partner violence, and specifically this kind, the coercive control piece. So yeah, I read a lot of psychology books. I read a lot of books about trauma. I read a lot of books about ADHD and autism. For fun, I mean, I have 3 parrots, so I work to take care of them. They're very active. They're very busy, but they are like the sweetest part of my life. And I try to spend at least 4 hours with them every day. It takes dedication, but it also is a relief. I can't really think about much else. I can't really do much else. So it gives me a chance to relax and just play. So it's like a double-edged sword. It's a lot of work, but it has an emotional payoff.
Mm, great.
Mhm.
On that note, Esther, I guess I won't hold you any longer. Thank you for your precious time, and I'm sure
Thank
that
you.
we'll catch up again in the future. In the meantime,
Mhm.
take care of yourself and
Thank you. Have a good evening.
you too, enjoy.
All right. Bye.